So you can get started by stating your name and your grade.
Okay, my name is Dania Hussein and I'm in grade 12.
And what got you interested in math?
When I was in 8th grade, when we were doing algebra, I just felt like everything was going kind of slow, so I would ask to I had Mr. Norton and he would give me extra sets of problems to do. So that inspired me to do geometry. So what I did was I asked him for resources and stuff, and he recommended this competitive math book, but I didn't know that it was competitive math, so I bought it and then I started doing it and I was like, this is a lot more fun. When I was doing it, and I was like, it's just it became obsessive, honestly. I would just it would be really weird because I never used to be like this. I would literally pull out that textbook and I would like to do all of the little geometry things because it felt like a puzzle, it felt like a challenge, and you struggled a lot through it, but you would fail maybe 10 times and then you'd get to the solution and you'd be like, I can connect the dots from there. And that I felt like that was the best part. But I think I held myself a lot from pursuing that further. I think I just went on to take regular math classes. And traditional math classes are okay, there are a lot of tough problems and stuff like that, but competitive math is really different. And I don't think I let myself fully embrace that until I actually started going to math competitions, which I did a lot later because I just I didn't really see myself fitting in with the stereotypical the math team. So that took me a while to get over, but I went to my first math competition just for fun with my friends, November of my junior year. So, and that's what got me after that first time, I literally could not stop doing it. It was so fun because especially when you do it in a team with other people, because I thought it would be super stressful and everybody has to do perfect, but everybody really uplifts you and they encourage you and they're happy with the way that you tried. And they always want to help you learn new things when you're I don't know what that change of base thing was, and they're like, oh my god, it's this thing. And that just that was a really fun community to be part of, and I started going after that. So.
What would you say your favorite kind of math is?
My favorite kind of math is anything algebra because I like to manipulate different numbers. It used to be the hardest thing for me. It's just I think calculus is really, it's a different dimension that I find is kind of intuitive, which maybe does not make sense. But algebra used to be the hardest thing for me because it would be hard. Because you think of algebra as really fundamental and really rudimentary, but once you step beyond that, algebra can be really. It can be really hard to manipulate numbers and different variables. So the ways that people have discovered a lot of different formulas and a lot of different proofs has been through those algebraic manipulations, and I think that's really interesting to dive into. But before that, I think I really liked geometry. So.
Yeah, I hated geometry, but I've always been an algebra girl. And...
yeah, I think I was just more of a visual learner, so sketching things out made sense to me.
Yep, for sure. That's a lot of people, I think. And how do you feel about the way math is taught in school? Do you think the current curriculum helps students? Do you think it's kind of confusing?
I personally think that it's taught too one-dimensionally. It's taught in a certain way that everybody is supposed to be taught this way, with guided notes or a note sheet and a lesson plan. And I don't think that everyone learns that way, and that's what's really frustrating about it. It's people need other methods of learning it, that sometimes that's why I think there's something called geometry and construction. So that's a different way to look at geometry for a lot of people, which is kind of interesting to me. I think that's a good step forward, but especially in a lot of my lecture heavy class, math classes, it was just it didn't really work for me until I did the homework. But it wasn't really the act of doing the homework. It was the fact that I had to go back and relearn those things in order to do the homework, but in my own way, by visualizing it a different way, or thinking about it a different way. And I think that needs to happen more in the classroom. There should be different options for people to learn, because some people are visual, some people are more audio based, so they'll be fine with lectures, but some people really cannot sit in like in a chair all day and like take notes. That's not going to help them. So I think there should be like other ways to explore concepts. But yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've noticed this too, but like in my math classes, I feel like we've gone more towards packet notes rather than like writing it out by hand in a notebook, which I find really interesting, but also I think it kind of makes it harder to learn the concepts because when you're writing it by hand in a notebook, then like you're actually thinking about what you're writing,
Yeah. I think like when you write it yourself, just like on a blank sheet of paper, you're forced to process things and like organize them in your own way. But like the packet notes or like the fill in the blank things, I think they're meant to like keep you on task and keep you like engaged. But it doesn't really work that much for me because there are a lot of like I'm not really processing as much of the information, and I feel like I'm just copying things down, which isn't really the point of notes. So
yeah, for sure. And do you believe people are naturally skilled at math, or is it more of like a learned thing?
It's definitely more of a learning thing. I don't think that anyone is born super smart at math. Just like anything, like you have to practice a lot at it, and a lot of that comes from like if you love it something, you're going to do a lot more of it. So I think the smartest people in math are like the people who seem like they may be like the most talented in math are honestly like they started out the same as anyone else, and they just like maybe they like picked up a few things before like they actually got into math classes, just like observing different things around them that like help them maybe take a step further in their intuition for math. But I think everybody can build that intuition. I don't think it's inherent.
Yeah, I like that because I feel like math for me has always been like one of my worst subjects, and I've always wondered, like, is it just me, like, am I stupid, or is it like other people have like just have the upper hand naturally? I don't know, because I feel like I've always been more like language English. Why did you decide to start Integrals?
Okay, we started Integrals because we were going to more math competitions, and like me and my friends kind of noticed that there were really only like I think 3 girls who went to math competitions like the entire time. There were more people in math club. I think there were like maybe 5 or 7 girls in math club, but only 3 of them, like including me, went to math competitions, and I felt like there was like a huge gap. So we started Integrals because we just saw like a major gap, and we wanted to encourage more people to start earlier, especially because I had started me and my friends had started at like different points in our lives. Some of us one of my friends had started like way back in elementary school. One of my friends started just going to like math club with Mr. Norton, but I started like really late, and I think we had like different experiences with that. And like different levels of training and like experience with competitive math. And I think we wanted more girls who are like interested in math to like feel like they belong and know that they belong doing competitive math if they choose to do it. And we wanted to reach that like at an earlier age, I guess. So we host the math competitions specifically for women and non-binary individuals who are comfortable being grouped with girls or have been affected by trans misogyny, to show to encourage them to sort of close the gender gap in competitive math and also just like STEM in general. So that's why we started that, and we host a competition usually in November and one in April, and we like doubled the amount of people who come, and it's usually middle school and high school girls, so anyone from any private or public school around Iowa City. And also we have some people who come from Cedar Rapids as well, so that's really interesting. They take a math competition that's designed for girls, and sometimes we lower the difficulty level just to like get new people started with that, and we give each person like individualized feedback. You should simplify your answers for how usually math competitions are run, because sometimes that's like it's not as known, I guess, and that like prevents a lot of people from succeeding the most. And sometimes we like look at their work and we're like, we see that you were like trying to get to this answer, and then we tell them things like that. And I think that helps them a lot. Sometimes we literally just leave like really encouraging notes with like our little colored markers, and I think that helps them out a lot, and they get to look back at like the different problems that they did and like trace back through their mistakes. But I think my favorite part of it is like seeing them work together in teams, because there's like an individual part of the competition, but then there's the part where they come together. And then there's a math section for that too, where they like get to hone in on different people's skills and like work on that. But then at the end, we do this thing called an estimathon, and that's like something that this company called Jane Street started. And it's basically just like, it's not really math related, it's like logic related. So even if you don't know anything in math, it'll be like, how many blades of grass need to be stacked up to measure the Eiffel Tower or something like that. And we get to write those, which is really interesting. And we email a lot of funding organizations, but our biggest one is definitely Jane Street. So they give us like t-shirts for all the girls, which is really fun. And we like take a little group picture at the end. We have like snacks and prizes. So that's been really fun to do.
So do you feel like there's a stigma around competitive math?
Yes, I think I definitely felt that stigma. I think there's definitely a stigma around competitive math because I think it's just, there's this stereotypical image that we have of like the math nerd or it's just, I feel like it's a little looked down upon or like seems like too nerdy or too weird for people to do. So people aren't as comfortable doing it. But also I think it's like our stereotype of like who would be good at math. Like it's usually like, I think it's mostly like the gender thing. Like I just like, mostly because I'm a woman, I felt kind of inferior, even though I just feel like men are usually seen as like the really smart people in STEM in general. And I think that's a major issue with getting more people to do competitive math and see that like you really, like you're meant to do this. If you want to do it, you can do it. And it does not matter like who's around you or anything like that. It's just like, if you want to do it, you can do it. So I definitely think there's a stigma around doing competitive math because of just like this stereotype and of like people holding themselves back. But I hope to change that with integrals. So
what tips do you have for people who feel like they aren't good at math? How do you think they could get better at it or like motivate themselves?
I think that you can get better at math by like asking for more problems, but then not like, even if you have very, very few problems, let's say you have like 5 problems, those are like, just treat those as like very valuable, like things that you can go back to. Basically just like go back to like the concepts and like note them down and try to like understand them and internalize them. But then when you actually apply them to the problems, you're doing the active part of like putting that more like into your head. And I think when you go back and you like see which mistakes you're making and you like try the problem over, like intentionally fixing those mistakes, that'll translate to other problems. And I think that's the best way to do it, because if you don't practice, you're not like, the more practice that you do, but really the more like intentional practice where you go back and you actually like fix your mistakes and you don't write it off as like a dumb mistake, because most mistakes are really not dumb mistakes. Like you can fix them. I think that's what holds people back. It's usually the conceptual understanding. So they'll like go back and learn the concepts. But once they like reach past that point, it's really about like these dumb mistakes that they're making, which is really just more of like making like computation mistakes, or making this like when you see a problem, you think of like the wrong application, or you go the long way first. And I think that when you go back and you actually treat those as like mistakes and like not dwell on the mistakes, but like try your best to fix those, that's how you like go over that threshold from like being average to like getting a really good score. So first it starts with the concepts, but then it goes to like really honing in on your weaknesses and not writing them off.